In this video, I will use the killing machine from Dragon Quest monsters as a Pokémon in Emerald. The killing machine, also known as Attack Bot or Roboster in some games, is a recurring monster in the series. He's another monster that got his stats cut by 25% in the remake due to Double Trouble, but more on that later. As a Pokémon, he will have 82 base HP, 91 attack, 102 defense, 87 special attack, 45 special defense, and 124 speed, for a total of 531. These are derived from an average of his GBC stats and 3DS stats, weighted slightly in favor of the former. They're still really high by Gen 3 standards, but it's an even spread, with an excessive speed that doesn't affect his combat power. His level-up moves are based on the skills he uses in the different games, plus some others for flavor and coverage. The Assassin skill set he gets in TW3D contains a lot of skills that simply won't work in Pokémon, such as family-specific slashes. Sleep or one-hit KO can't be a secondary effect in this generation either, due to game engine limitations. I will set up a killing machine with a neutral nature, perfect IVs, and pre-applied EVs. He's a robot in the material family, so the steel and electric typing is pretty obvious. This should give him a huge advantage in this gen, despite a double ground weakness. I tried simulating Double Trouble in my earlier Demon at Arms video, by making every damaging move a clone of Double Kick, but it seemed too crude, not to mention overpowered. So instead, I kept the theme by giving him a bunch of multi-hit moves with double the base damage, but in exchange, their PP has been reduced to only 5. Affected moves are in caps. EV-wise, max attack is a given since his base attack is quite mediocre, and some special defense is basically forced. I put a few points into special attack as well, just to use the few beam moves I gave him for flavor. He levels up at a medium rate in the original DQM games and the remakes, so I put him into the same EXP group as the starters. This group levels up faster than the standard 1 million group early on, but gradually becomes slower at higher levels. This is going to be a pretty quick and straightforward run, thanks to his typing. Although he does have a double ground weakness, none of Roxanne's Pokémon have any ground moves. I can't simulate skill link here as no moves always hit 5 times, but doubling the base power is better than skill link if you roll 3 or more hits, and only a little worse if you roll 2, which happens 3/8 of the time in this gen. The odds were normalized in the later games, but it's still more likely to hit 2 or 3 times than 4 or 5. The reduced PP of these moves might prove to be an issue later on, as they are still quite unreliable, and you can't buy ethers or elixirs. I might have to equip a Lepa Berry for some late game battles, but hopefully I won't. Here's an optional rival battle added in Emerald. It's really easy, but it still provides some extra EXP, considering there's nowhere to grind on the island before the next gym. I gave her Torchic just so she won't be burdened with an awful Slugma that never evolves, although Magcargo is arguably even worse. The second gym was also quite easy, despite my weakness to fighting. I have pretty decent defense, so all I had to do to win was not get too unlucky, as in only rolling 2 hits every time and getting critically hit twice. Bulk up doesn't make sense on a robot, and gear change or whatever Clink's boosting move is called can't be recreated in this gen, because each move can only have one effect. Compound effects like in Dragon Dance and Blaze Kick are hard-coded as a single effect. Dazzle Flash is in the Assassin skill set, and it doesn't originally do damage. But since the Pokémon Flash is an HM, and accuracy debuffs don't really work on the in-game AI, I just made it a Psychic-type clone of Icy Wind that drops accuracy instead of speed. It's still a terrible move, but at least it has more than 5 PP. The rival battles in these Gen 3 games are kind of a joke, maybe because he or she was characterized as more of a supporter than an actual competitor. There'll never be any challenge unless I edit their teams and AI type, but I really don't want to make changes to the game itself when these videos are just for fun. Watson's Magneton got nerfed in Emerald, and its top spot is now taken by a Manectric. He should be pretty trivial since I kept Overheat just for his Magneton. I equipped a Cherry Berry because electric types can still be paralyzed in this generation, although poison types can't be poisoned, fire types can't be burned, and grass types can't be seeded since the beginning. I guess it's because some non-electric moves like Body Slam and Dragon Breath can also paralyze. Speaking of which, there was a bug in Gen 1 that prevented Body Slam from paralyzing normal types, and damaging electric moves from paralyzing electric types. I don't know what kind of spaghetti code was going on in the background, but maybe their intention was to make electric types immune to paralysis. The Assassin skill set gets Undead Undoer, but that can't be recreated here without base moves like Freeze Dry, so I just gave him Night Slash. Flannery could be a pain for a steel type with terrible special defense. I have nothing that can one-shot her Camerupt or Torkoal, but either of them can easily one-shot me with overheat if sunny day is up. I don't know if that crit from overheat mattered, because it's still 140 power in this gen, and gym leaders do have EVs in Emerald. Even a critical night slash wouldn't have been enough to one-shot the Torkoal, so I should have used Spark to fish for the paralysis. I got the paralysis on my second attempt, as well as the stun, and her cam erupt just through the fight by using tackle of all things, when it also has overheat, and probably magnitude too. I suppose the AI knew that overheat would miss and magnitude would roll a 1, but even magnitude 1 was 60 power against my double weakness, so maybe it doesn't have magnitude. This is why accuracy drops don't really work on in-game bosses. The RNG in these games is deterministic, so the AI knows in advance which moves will roll a miss or a crit and might act accordingly. It doesn't always cheat like that, and there is still some randomness though. Anyway, Norman was an easy win, since there's nothing his team can do against steel types, which still resist dark and ghost in this gen. Here's another rival battle, and she still only has 3 Pokemon that are at lower levels than some of the wild critters in this area. I know they intended for Wally to be your real rival in these games, but they could have done a bit more with the opposite character and given them a much better team. Multi-slash hits all enemies in the DQM games, and bigger enemies get hit once for each party slot they occupy. Here I made it a steel-type multi-hit move that hits both targets, and I gave it 25 base power and 90% accuracy like most other multi-hit moves in Gen 5. By the way, I forgot to mention that they missed Pin Missile when they buffed multi-hit moves in Gen 5, and its base power remained at a dreadful 14 until they finally remembered it in Gen 6, so I used its Gen 6 stats just to be consistent. It was still a terrible move due to its type, and I've already replaced it. Winona's Swablu could be a problem in a solo run, since it knows Perish Song and she has 5 Pokemon, but it's so underleveled that nothing should have trouble one-shotting it at this point. Other than that, she's basically a free win for a steel and electric type. Although her Altaria does have Earthquake, its attack stat is pitifully low without Dragon Dance. This is the last rival battle, and she still doesn't have a full team or even a fully evolved starter. If she started with Trico or Mudkip, she'd still have an awful Slugma, which isn't even a Gen 3 Pokemon. You might be able to rematch her in the post-game, but I think that's only in the remake, which I couldn't be bothered to play. Twin Beam is a Pokemon move from the new generation, and it's called Double Laser in the French version. It just hits twice with no other effects, but it might still be useful for some special coverage. The Maxi battle here is the same as in Ruby, except his team is at lower levels. You'd think his Camerupt would be a hard counter to my typing, but it's simply too slow and nowhere near as bulky as it looks. I don't know why Game Freak keeps making these kinds of slow and fragile Pokemon that could easily get one-shot before they can do anything. You need a second Pokemon to fight the Psychic Gym, so I grabbed a flying type, thinking it would prevent their Claydol from using Earthquake, but unfortunately, it didn't, probably because of my double weakness. Earthquake does full damage to allies and enemies, which is why it hit me so hard, even though the Claydol might not have maxed attack. I got pretty lucky there and rolled 4 hits on Multi-Slash, which was barely enough to take out the Claydol after the 50% AoE damage penalty in Gen 3. In Gen 4 and beyond, all AoE moves do 75% damage when hitting multiple targets, ally or enemy. Their Solrock and Lunatone don't have Earthquake, so they were no threat. The Solrock does have Flamethrower, but its special attack is terrible, and it doesn't get stabbed. The Psychic Gym was only a standard double battle, not a multi-battle, despite it having 2 gym leaders, but following it is a forced multi-battle with Steven as your partner. This battle can get pretty obnoxious due to Intimidate and Confusion, which is exacerbated by the intentionally horrible partner AI. Both of their Camerupt also know Earthquake to hit my double weakness, and Earthquake is one of the few AoE moves that do full damage when hitting multiple targets in Gen 3. That said, once their Camerupt were down, there wasn't much the rest of their team can do against steel types. The Archie fight that comes after it was just a free win, thanks again to my typing and good speed stat. His team didn't even get a level boost in Emerald, but they did receive some EVs according to the ROM editor. Like Maxi and a few other bosses, his Pokemon have the number 150 under EVs, but I have no idea how they are distributed, and there's no option to manually change them. The Killing Machine uses Cockrackle Slash in some of the main series games, and here I made it a physical Ice-type clone of Fire Blast with a 20% chance to freeze. It's mostly there for flavor, but it can be useful against Drake's Pokemon with a double ice weakness, as well as Steven's Claydol later on. Juan was basically another free win. Typing disadvantage aside, his team is just too underleveled at this point, and the strongest move on most of his Pokemon is the awful Water Pulse. 60 power is okay in the first few gyms, when all you have are 40 power moves, but it's a complete joke to use in the last gym. Well, I guess his Kingdra could become a threat if it managed to max out evasion with double team, but I'd have to get incredibly unlucky to allow that to happen. Wally challenges you at the entrance of Victory Road in Emerald, instead of the exit, which makes him easier since you won't be all scuffed up and out of PP. Speaking of PP, it might become an issue for me in these longer battles, as all of my multi-hit moves only have 5 uses by default. I had nothing that could one-shot his Magneton, but fortunately, it didn't paralyze me with Thunder Wave. The other things on his team were no threat. Here are my stats and moves for the Pokémon League. All my stats are good enough, apart from special defense which is abysmal. My attack isn't that high, but it's essentially doubled when using multi-hit moves. My moves provide decent coverage against most types in the league, and multi-slash should just overpower everything, provided I don't miss or roll 2 hits every time. Sydney was actually the hardest member of the Elite Four, or rather, the most annoying. His Mightyena has Intimidate, and his AI prioritizes debuffs on the first turn. Getting hit by Sand Attack was bad because my strongest moves don't have perfect accuracy, but luckily, my typing afforded me some leeway, since Steel still resisted Dark and Ghost in Gen 3. Shining Shot, or Shining Bow, is the only bow skill from the main games that made it into TW3D, and I believe it does physical sizz and zap damage. It hits random enemies a random number of times, but that can't be replicated here, so I just made it the same as multi-slash. The AoE is irrelevant now anyway, since there won't be any more double or multi-battles. Phoebe is usually the biggest threat in solo runs, as her leading Dusclops knows Curse. Either of my stab moves should one-shot it even with a 2-hit roll, since it doesn't have much HP, but they don't have perfect accuracy, and it can spam Protect to run down my PP with its pressure ability. You can actually still win while being cursed, as long as your max HP isn't divisible by 4 or you have a Citrus Berry, and you one-shot everything. But the problem is if you got cursed because you couldn't one-shot her first level 48 Dusclops, chances are you won't be able to one-shot her second one either, which is level 51. Anyway, I didn't get cursed, but I did take a lot of damage from Earthquake as I only rolled 2 hits on her level 51 Dusclops. Then I misclicked and used Twin Beam against her Sableye, which is immune to it, but I wasn't punished for my mistake. Glacia has the worst team among the Elite Four, thanks to the shortage of new ice types in Gen 3. She really only has 2 different Pokémon, as they are the only ice types introduced in this generation, besides the legendary Regice. They should have brought back some previous ice types, like Lapras, Sneasel, and Piloswine, just for the sake of variety. Both of my types counter her team, and even if the worst were to happen, that I miss and get frozen, I'd still have an Aspear Berry as backup. She's just one of those bosses that could be either a free win, or a roadblock, depending on your typing. I mean, if you have a flying dragon or something doubly weak to ice, then she's going to be a problem, especially since her Walrein is so bulky. Drake shouldn't be too hard either, since I have Cockrackle Slash to hit the double weakness of his dragons. The only problem is missing, considering none of my physical moves have perfect accuracy. And it really was a problem, as I missed against his Shelgon and got my speed lowered by Rock Tomb, which could be bad if I became slower than his Flygon. It turned out that I was still faster than his Salamence, which is faster than the Flygon, but I missed again and took almost half from Flamethrower, thanks to my terrible special defense. It was doubly bad because I ran out of PP for Cockrackle Slash, so I had to take my chances and roll for Multi-Slash against his Flygon. I needed at least 4 hits due to Intimidate, and it could obviously take me out with Earthquake if it survived. Luckily, I did get 4 hits, and the rest of his team was much less of a threat. I don't know the exact stats of his Pokémon, and there's no way to check in the ROM editor, but I'm quite sure none of them have any EVs and speed. Wallace is probably the worst champion across all generations so far, with all his Pokémon being water type, which isn't known for having good coverage, especially in the early gens. I'm part electric and can't be poisoned, so this should be an easy win, as long as I don't miss too many times. Intimidate from his Gyarados could be annoying, but I still had a huge level advantage and stab Shining Shot. The biggest threat on his team was the Whiscash, which is immune to electric and resists steel, and I don't get stab on Cockrackle Slash. Its base attack isn't even good, but it still did over 75% with Earthquake, so it most likely has attack EVs. If it was a Swampert or something with higher base attack, it would have easily one-shot me. Again, the rest of his team was easy. I learned Swords Dance at level 78, which I will definitely need for Steven. However, I can see him being yet another free win, due mainly to the stubborn AI in this gen that simply refuses to switch. He leads with a Skarmory to inflict toxic and wall most types, but it cannot do jack against another steel type, and that means it's just a free setup fodder. If his AI realizes this fact and switches to the Claydol or Aggron immediately, there might be no way I could win before level 90 or whatever. Because +2 stages probably wouldn't be enough to one-shot either of them with any of my moves, barring lucky rolls or crits, yet they can easily one-shot me with Earthquake. But now I'm allowed to boost all the way to +6, all I have to do is not miss against the things that have Earthquake. This is rather anticlimactic, but it really shows the limitations of early AI. I'm pretty sure the AI in modern games would have switched in this situation. So, in conclusion, this has been a fast and easy run thanks to my typing, and my intention was to make it quick, because I've been very busy lately. I'll try to make these videos shorter, as most people only watch a few minutes. Thanks for watching.